Right, let's start. I hope you're all fine. And as you can see, the topic is numerical solution to first order differential equations. This is not the beginning of this topic, just a continuation. You see this, then improved the Euler's method. I've represented Euler's method, you should be knowing how to implement that one now from the example I gave you. After the example, I suppose you also took some more examples for your own practice. So I was saying, the method was presented to you. I gave you an example. So please try to do more examples for yourself to practice this. So today what I'm presenting improved the Euler's method. For a simple reason, people invent things, anything, whatever they invent, they keep on improving on it. So this method is supposed to be an improvement in a way Euler's method was done. Okay. So for me to understand it, I think it's good for me to recap what really Euler's method did. Then looking from that, we move on to improve the Euler's method. I hope that is clear. Okay. So at this point, I hope everyone knows what we are going to learn. We're going to learn a new numerical approach to solutions of first order differential equations, which is called improved Euler's method. So what did Euler's method say? It says simple thing like this. The motivation was there in that previous presentation, but it's a simple motivation that our first order differential equations, they come in this form in general. Like that. But, for example, the simplest equation we saw before, like dy dx equals to -3, we say to solve this, we can simply integrate this -3. And we say we solve the equation by direct integration. But now, in the introduction of this method, I showed you that if you've got a function like x e to the power of x squared, you can integrate this thing very easily. You just have to transform this multiplied by 2 over 2, something like this, 1 over 2, multiplied by 2x e to the power of x squared dx. Then it's the integral is e to the power of x squared over 2 plus c. And when we do that, we're saying we've solved the equation using, or we've solved. Let's suppose this originated from a first order differential equation like this. X e to the power of x squared. Then this would what? This would be sitting here as a solution to that equation. And the approach we used here, this is what we call analytic method. That's the analytic method. But if I give you something like this, e to the power of x squared dx, to do the same thing, you cannot do it unless if you want to do it wrongly. So, but I say, you understand that? But if we do something like this, A to B, we can still not do it the following way, but we can resort to what we call numerical integration. Things like trapezium rule, Simpson's rule. So you do that. So what does that say? It says simple that if we're in the presence of a differential equation of this nature, e to the power of x, we cannot solve it analytically. And then that's where numerical methods come in. When we cannot solve, let's solve this initial conditions given, we cannot solve it because we cannot integrate it analytically. So we need to do numerical solutions. I hope that is clear. I tried to explain this thing in that video presentation I gave you, but if you didn't give it, I'm repeating it here, I hope you get the idea. So, what was the shape? What was where did we start? We started exactly here, dy dx equal to f of x, comma y. If you take that transformation and multiply by dx both sides, what we get here, you get dy equals to f at x, comma y, and dx. This normally spells, if you remember your differentiation very well, it simply tells us about the change in y. And then this is f, the function, and this is the change in x. And that presentation, we say the change in x are going to be called h, and then that is what we call a step. I'll come back to that and understand better. So what does that take us to? It took us to the fact that if the solution to this differential equation, here a graph, let's say of this nature, Just that, listen here, we don't have a function, but I'm just imagining a situation that suppose the solution that we have looked like something like this, and we knew the values of this function at some point x0, and that value was y0. So what do we do? This should be basically the initial condition of given in this equation that y, the solution you're looking for, at x0 is equal to y0. That's what we'll be saying. And then, if that is the case, you also need to remember that the first derivative is geometric interpretation 1. This defines a slope of the function y. That's what defines the slope of the function y. So then, if you come back to this, it seems like the change in the value of the function is given by this. Remember, this is the derivative. There is given. That's the derivative. So it means given by the value of the derivative at the point which we're talking about, multiplied by the change in x. And the normal circumstances, this change in x, we're going to choose it ourselves. For this numerical solution, we're going to choose it ourselves. Though in some problems they are going to give you h, but in practice, when you're outside the industry, you're basically solving such a similar problem. You basically need to choose your own h depending on how you want your approximation to be. Okay. So obviously, the final h approximation you get. But by final is small. Like I'm saying, I can take h to be 0,1. I can take h to be 0,01. Obviously, this is the final kind of h. So the spaces between x's are going to be smaller. So my conclusion, I think it will be better than to take a bigger step. Am I making myself clear? Yes. So the key thing now is here. He says the change in y is given by the value of the derivative multiplied by the change in x. Why do I say it's key? Because now, remember, I can't get the analytical function for this differential equation. But now I want to approximate it numerically. So in other words, if I got an initial value here, I can now want to approximate the value of the function at some value here x1, between which the distance here is a step of h, which is what I've got here. Now I'm going to raise this delta x and put h for the segment. So h. So which means if I wanted this, the third value, the complete value here is saying x2, and simply h to this x1 and get that. So this is what I'm saying. This is thing called the step. You are at x0, you move step of 0,1 or 0,01, you get x1. Step of 0,1, you get x2. There is many possible values you want there. It's up to you. But I said again in introduction that these things are not done for very small intervals or even approximated at a single value. Let's say give value, what is approximate value? 0,3, something like that. So small interval, or at least at a single value, approximating the value of the solution. I hope that is clear. If it's not clear, please be sharp. Right. So then what's happening now? If let's now look at this thing, which means when we come here at x, we would expect this value, the value of the function now here, to be y1. And now, why is this left here, from here to there, is changing x, which is equal to h. Then if I draw a horizontal here, and a horizontal there, now this stretch here is actually exactly what we call changing y. Y, value of y was here, is now here, so this distance between is changing y. Does that make sense? Yes. So then, from that, everybody it is clear to everybody that y1 is then equals to y0 plus change in y. Making sense? Then, if we then substitute that change in y with this, then it tells us that y1 is y0 plus h, the value at x0, y0. So this is saying, once you give me the initial values, I can find the next value of y. So once I get this one, I can take it as initial, I can find the next, meaning I can find y2. If you check 0 plus 1, 1. So here, 1 plus 1, 2. So I'll need y1, which already I got here, plus h0, y1. 0 there, y1. So it means here I'm going to have f comma that. There's 2 here. Then there I must have 1 less, which is x1, y1. So you continue this thing. This is going to give you a table of values for this function. And then a table of values, you can maybe use them to roughly plot the solution without knowing exactly how the solution looks like. You not looking like f of x equal to this. Am I making sense? Yes. Actually, I'm repeating myself here. I'm trying repeating what I did in the introduction. But I'm repeating for the purpose that you understand what I'm going to do now. Now, we carry on with this, carry on with this, carry on with this, carry on with this, until we get to yn plus 1. And then following the same formula, the same pattern, this will be yn, 1 less than this, plus h f xn, comma yn. All these indices, 1 less than this one. And this is exactly what we call Euler's formula or Euler's method. It's a formula which is used for this Euler's method. Now, let's come to the new thing now. This story of the improved Euler's method. Please, I invite you to keep this in mind. I would like you to keep this thing somewhere, very visible somewhere. I would like you to understand this interpretation very well, that a gradient is a slope. However, the first derivative gives the value, gives us the slope of the curve, which is usually the slope of the tangent line at that point where we are considering that tangent. Am I making sense? Okay. So then, let's go. You're keeping all those things I said must be on side. Okay. What do you end up with just from here onwards? What do you end up with another formula? What we have now is yn plus 1 equals yn plus h f xn yn and that. And then this is Euler's method. I'll just say the EM. We want at the end of this discussion from here onwards, we want to end up with another formula which is going to say yn that equals 2. We'll see what it's going to give us. Making sense? We know the target. Lose yourself if you want to lose yourself. Good. This is what we do now. We are talking at this point about the slope, which is exactly dy dx equals to f at x0, y0. And that slope there, let's call it m0, is the slope of what? It's therefore the tangent line which I can draw this way. Let me use the ruler here just for written. That's the tangent line 0. The 0 there just referring to the initial point, the tangent line at the initial point, x0, y0. Now, then you saw that in the change of y, we actually use that tangent line, that gradient of that tangent line this way. That's what we use. But obviously, listen to me carefully, please carefully, listen to me carefully. If we suppose that this curve from this point increases at the rate of this tangent line, I repeat, if we suppose that this curve from this point increases at the rate of this straight line, by the time it gets above x1 here, the value of the function will be somewhere here. Guys, suppose that the curve follows the path of the straight line. The value of the function will be there. Now this will be our y1. Under that supposition, that will be our y1. What will be this value? This will be the exact value. If this is the solution, the curve there, this will be the exact value of the function. And this will be n approximation y1. So the difference between the two is the error. I hope you understand. Do you understand? Yeah. So then, if we then suppose that the curve touches somewhere here and something like that, there will be a new tangent at this point. There will be a new tangent to the curve. That point, I'm not saying the curve is straight line, no, but it somehow follows the path more or less straight line. So when it gets that point when y1, there will definitely we should expect another tangent which goes this way. Let's call this tangent line 1, corresponding to y1 here. Then that tangent line 1, it is going to be m1 equal to dy dx, which is equal to the value of the function where? What should I put in the brackets there? x1? x1, y1. Very good. x1 comma y1. Exactly. And now thinking process goes on and goes on. The idea comes up that what would happen if then we don't use this for change of x in the formula there, but instead we use the average of these two gradients. 45, 40 and 50 as 2 marks, and you add them, you find the average. The average is not going to be less than 40. Am I correct?
Yes.
The average is not going to be bigger than 50. Am I correct?
Yes.
What does it mean? It means then the average gradient of these two gradients must lie somewhere in between, actually in the middle of the two. Like bisect this angle. I'll put a dot there where it's in the half angle, and I put a dot there. It will somewhere there. Then the new average gradient will be given by this kind of slope. And then this one, I'll call it I'll call it T M average. Now observe, having this dotted line with a gradient which is the average of these two. If now assume that from this point the curve follows the rate of growth of this line which has got the gradient which is average of these two, then to do that, to illustrate that, we'll do the following. We'll transport this line parallel in such a way that it intersects the curve exactly there at the initial point. So let's do that. So transporting this line parallel would push it this way along the straight edge, and it comes and be in that position. Now let's draw that dotted line parallel. So now what do you see? We see that if we extend this vertical line over x1, it casts this dotted line somewhere here. And there, this was y1, the level of y1, when we're using the rate of growth of this initial tangent here. Now the actual curve, we can see the actual curve is there, which means that's the exact value of the function. But if you now compare the level of y1 and the one which we get here, let's say y1 prime. So if we follow the rate of growth of this initial tangent line there, our y1 is approximated there. Now if we change and take the average, follow the average gradient between these two, then now the approximate value of y1 is somewhere there, which means we get a better approximation because you can see the distance between this and the actual value is more than the distance between this one and that. So which means this method we're discussing is actually offering us a way of getting a better approximation of y1. So now let's proceed and discuss and see how does the formula end up looking like. But what is M average? M average, that means that average gradient is going to be M0 plus M1 over 2. Do you agree? Yes. Then let's just engage this a bit. Let's engage that a bit. Sorry for this, I have to take some. Let's engage this. Let's engage this a bit. Check. This M0 is this value. F at x0, y0, plus this M1 is this value, x at x1, y1. That, all over that, over 2. Do you agree? Yes. But check. I'm going to do something here. Check. y1 is actually y0 plus h f at x0, y0. Why? Because of Euler's method. Do you agree? Yes. So then I'm not going to put y0 here. I'm going to put y1 here. I'm going to put y1 in this form. So I'm going to put this thing as y0 plus h f at x0, y0 close bracket. And you can see this is f at x1, y1. But what is coming here is actually the Euler's formula which we're talking about. Am I making sense? So this is the value which is going to be used where? Here in the Euler's formula. That's the value formula. Initially we used the change in y there. So we use to get change in y, we use this gradient. But now what we're using, we want to use the average gradient. Am I making sense? Please make sure you follow that. Are you hearing what I'm saying?
Yes.
Are you following? Yes. Talk to me. I hear what I'm saying. I'm following. Don't follow hazily. Follow precisely. Who is not fine? Yes.
Please explain the f of x1, x0, because we actually couldn't see what you were actually talking about.
But you must talk very early. I said, first of all, I put M1. M1 was defined by this, isn't it? But check this Y1 here. Yeah, that's right. So now when I'm talking about Y1 here, when I'm talking about Y1 here, I can refer to the Euler's method. Y1 is something like this. So for now, for me, at F here, instead of putting Y1, I can actually put the expression for Y1, which is that. And you must note that this is actually the Euler's formula for finding Y1. Altogether, this is what we're introducing here. We're introducing the improved Euler's method. So we cannot lose sight of Euler's method. Am I making sense? Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So now, if we've now got this thing now, check. For the slope, which was given by F, it's going to be taken by the average slope. So what I'm going to say now, there, I'm going to say yn plus 1 equals to yn plus h. Instead of putting F here, I'm going to put average slope. But in this case, I'm going to take this expression. Then h is there. For F, for this, instead of taking this value, I'm taking average value. So if we take that average value, this is what's going to come here. This is going to be f at x0, sorry, f at x0, comma y0, plus f at x1, comma y0, plus h at f0, x0, comma y0, close bracket, and then that, and that is taken as average. Actually, I'm making a mistake here. This would be, check, this is 0, right? This is 0, this is? Yes. 1 after 0 is 1, so this is y1. 1, sorry, this is 0. This is 0, yes, 0. And then this 1 after 0 is 1. So this will be our first y1 for this new formula. But if you follow the pattern exactly following the same logic, the index we put here is n plus 1, 1 less. So this will be yn plus h. I will take that 2 outside as a common factor, put that there. Then I put this thing here. Let's follow that pattern. Let's follow that pattern. Let's follow that pattern. The index we put here is 1 less there. The same index there is 1 less there. The same index there is 1 less there. So what's going to happen here? Here now, check the index which is here is second, the same one which is here. So here I've got f at x n, comma, y n. Altogether. And then when I'm coming from here to there, this one is one more than this one. So I've got f at x n plus 1. Altogether. And then comma, this one which is here is 1 less than this one. So y n plus h f at x n, comma, y n, close the square bracket. And then there, we've got a new formula called improved Euler's method. So you now see a new formula. So basically, here it's showing you how to start from 0 to get to 1. Then here what it shows you is showing you generally what to do. It basically says to get to the next point, you need the concept of the previous point. And then now instead of working h here, like there we got h here, you are having h over 2. Remember h over 2 is bringing that notion of an average here. And then you get what you got. Are we together? Now, after this discussion, guys, the formula must be understood very, very clearly. The only thing is how to use it. But if you have used the Euler's method before, then this one is going to be easy to use. Because time is not on our side. I'm going to give you a problem now, which I'm going to advise you how to do it, and then do some comparative. So actually, I call it comparative example. Comparing one. Euler's method, improved Euler's method, and the exact solution. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give an equation which you can solve analytically. In this case, get the exact solution, the unique solution. And then I'm going to request you to solve this problem using Euler's method and use improved Euler's method. Then you must compare the value of the exact solution compared to Euler. The value of the exact solution compared to improved Euler. Then you have the judgment which method of the two methods is better than the other. How do you get the error? The error basically is the absolute value of what? Of the exact value minus the approximate value. So you do the error twice. The error for Euler, the error for improved Euler. You compare the two errors, then you can judge which one is better. How do you get it? Okay, let's take an example. Comparative example. Now, listen to the exercise and then listen to me. I'm giving you an example also of how I sometimes ask this question. I've already said, given this problem, solve it numerically using Euler's method, EM here, effective Euler's method, IM, improved Euler's method, and then determine which approach gives you better approximation. But you cannot compare this and judge which one gives you the better approximation if you don't have the exact solution. Altogether. So the problem I gave you is a problem basically just for comparative kind of practical exercise, and then you can solve it analytically. You have the exact function, evaluate it to the point, and I think say where to do it. Let's say it gives you a better approximation at x equal to 0.3. And I can even say here, take your step to be h equal to 0.1. So it's important that any numerical solution like this, you need a step. So that's it. So now, in this, what I'm saying, we basically need the approximate value of this new solution, which you don't know how it looks like, at x. So what we do? Because we can't compare them without knowing the exact value, I think in this case, as you can see, this equation, let me say here, solution. This equation can be solved analytically. How? The separate variables. How? We can now say this tells us that dy over y equals to dx, multiplied by dx. And then this takes us to say the integral of dy over y equals to the integral dx. This is an obvious derivative. That's the main form of the derivative. So y equals to x plus c. Altogether, remember what y, applying e on both sides, you get y equals to e x plus c. Applying rules of exponents, you get e x multiplied by e c. Then declaring c, e plus c equals to k. So this is k e x. Applying the initial condition, y at 0, the symbol equals to equal to 2. This implies that k times e to the power 0 must equal to 2. But this is 1. Therefore, symbol k is equal to 2. So the exact solution here now is y equals to 2e to the power of x. Making sense, huh? Then if one exact value at 0.3, then we say y at 0.3 is simply equals to 2e. Press the calculator this way, you get the value here. What are you going to get there? Tell me what you're going to get. Please copy as many decimal places as possible. That will minimize your error at the end when you give your answer. Let's say I'll require you to give this answer to 4 decimal places. So simply work to more than 6 decimal places. So this is 2,69971,7615. That's the exact value. Altogether. So I keep that somewhere there. I now come to my numerical solutions because I want to compare them and see which one is better. So this is what I'm going to draw. Let's draw a nice table this way. Draw a nice table this way. Have your n here. Have your x n here. Have your y n here. For 0, we already called x 0, 0. And the y 0 is 2. Then, oh, sorry. What am I talking about? Yes. Then the step is h equal to 0, 1. So 0.1, I add 0.1 to 0, I get 0.1000000. Then 2, I get 0.2000000. Then N3, then I get 0.30000. I don't need to go any further because my task is to approximate the value of function way at a single point 1, not implemented unified, just at a single point 1. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to now calculate my values here, or let's say our values. What I'm going to have here, I'm going to have Euler's method. So you fill up this column using Euler's formula. You will fill up this formula using Euler's formula. You will fill up this column using improved Euler's method. Then once you've done that, you will have got the, when you complete the table, you will have got the value here, you will have got the value here. Then you will have to deal with the error. Error basically, this is the thing. Error is absolute value of the approximate value minus the actual value in absolute value because the distance. And here is everything. That's the error. Then when I look at the two errors, if I find that this one is 0.04 and this one, sorry, 0.04 and this one is 0.4, you have to judge which one is bigger. And the one which gives you a bigger error is a less accurate approximation, and the one which gives you a small error is a greater approximation. So you write this thing on PDF, you're going to hand in as homework. Everybody knows how to hand in homework. At this point, I'm going to say thank you for listening. My name is Charles Kosman.